Hi guys, hope you're all okay. Welcome back to my channel. I can't take myself seriously right now. I keep laughing at myself because I'm holding my phone like this, using my microphone, like the cool kids are doing. It's simply because there's a lot of activity going on outside my house at the moment. It's just I live in a busy area. It's like school pick-up time. I have also got a bit of a cold. Well, I'm at the back end of a cold, so I might sound a little bit bunged up, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I just wanted to do another little update video because I feel like I'm actually at a really pivotal stage of my life, and it is update worthy for me anyway. That's what I think. So yeah, as you can see from the title of the video, I'm 29. I'm single, I'm broke at the moment, I still live at home. I've had a bit of an identity crisis recently, so I just want to talk about it. But before I do, I did just want to do a little disclaimer because I actually tried to film this video maybe a month ago, but I couldn't get past the stage of me saying how grateful I am for my life. This is by no means me complaining about my life. I'm just simply sort of talking about where I've been at for anyone that might be interested or anyone that's my age and feels like they want to relate to anybody. But yeah, I couldn't get past the fact that there's so much going on in the world at the moment. The world feels like a very scary, crazy place. I'm very aware of obviously I feel like you can't really say things on YouTube because people say the videos get taken down, but we all know what's going off at the moment. And I live in the UK, in England, and I've just never felt like I wanted to leave this country more. The world leaders at the moment are just absolutely showing their true colours and their true faces, and it's absolute. The words are escaping me, but you guys know what I mean. The world just feels like an absolute shit show currently. So yeah, I just wanted to say that me and my situation and things that I've been going through, I understand completely that it's nothing compared to what some people are actually going through at the moment. And like I say, I'm very grateful for where I'm at in life, for the fact that I do live in the UK, even though it's absolutely abhorrent at the minute. Well, maybe not the country itself, but the leaders of the country. So yeah, I just wanted to say that first and foremost. But yeah, so we'll get into where I've been at recently. I am still living at home, so that's nothing new really. But I wanted to start off by talking about where I was at this time last year, because that's the sort of catalyst into, I suppose, or that's where the journey sort of started for me, and this identity crisis sort of thing that I was going through at the start of the year. This time last year, I had passed my driving test and I'd gone to buy my first car, which is obviously an amazing, fun chapter of my life that I was so happy to do. But at the same time that I bought my car, we were also having our kitchen redone. So for me, there were two big major things that were happening. Not being able to use our things as we normally would. We just had a little cooker, stove, tabletop thing. Anyway, I guess at that time my focus was much more on me was much more on me getting my car. I got the car at the end of May, but I couldn't actually drive it until the 1st of June because that's when my insurance kicked in, because I was trying to get as cheap insurance as I could, but it was still a hell of a lot of money. That whole time of having a car and starting to drive, at first I felt fine about it, but then very quickly it turned into this massive anxiety inducing situation for me, because where I live, like I say, it's very busy. There's always cars about. I have got a drive, thankfully, but the drive is on a hill. So imagine this is my car. This is the hill that I live on. And also the drive is a little bit wonky as well. So there's a simple fact of me parking my car in my drive would give me so much anxiety. And driving itself, I feel was okay, even though yes, I was stalling all the time. But I do want to do a year of driving update, so we'll talk a lot more about that in detail in that video. But basically, I say all this to say that for the first time in a long time, I felt this overwhelming feeling of feeling anxious and nervous every time that I would leave the house and go to get in my car to drive. I would feel so anxious. So that led me onto like almost obsessive behaviour in terms of looking outside my window to look at where the other cars were in relation to my car, so that I knew exactly how to get out of the house and like leave, because I wasn't reversing into my drive, I was forward parking into my drive, so I'd have to reverse out, so that made things even more awkward. But because I wasn't confident in reverse parking, I wouldn't do that. Anyway, I'm babbling on too much about the actual driving. Yeah, so I just became a little bit of an anxious mess all the time because of driving. And then, like I say, because we were having our kitchen done, that was like an added stress. So eventually the kitchen got done, and then we had this massive task of putting everything back into the kitchen. And also, naturally, we wanted to like organise the kitchen. And that just was quite stressful. Like, there was a lot to do, and it was just really me and my mum doing everything. And I know that we can get things done ourselves, but that I did just find that quite stressful. And I'd say like from when I got my car, I felt different because it was such a big change in my life. Like, it really shook up everything in me, I guess. And it was weird. I feel like, in a way, this is why it's good to start driving when you're younger, so that it just becomes like a norm in your life from an earlier age. But I feel like when you learn to drive a little bit later on, it makes such a big impact on you as a person. And this sounds really dramatic. I hope you feel what I'm saying. Yeah, it just felt like such a massive change, and it really, like I say, just shook something. It just like shook up all of my like DNA, or like my person. But because it did make me so anxious, I feel like that fed into different aspects of my life. And because I'm a perfectionist as well, I feel like because I wasn't doing things in regards to driving very well, that really pissed me off. It really frustrated me that I couldn't like sometimes park properly. It really bothered me if my parking was like a little bit wonky. I'd like look out my window loads at the car and be like, why is it like, it's so embarrassing, people can see my car like this. So that perfectionist side of me really came out in like full force when I started driving, and that like made me realise a lot of things about myself. Me and my car and the skills that I had with driving like was like a physical embodiment of my perfectionism, if that makes sense. That people could actually see an extension of me with my car. Does that make sense? I hope it does. And so if it was wonky, I'd be like, oh my god, everyone can see that I'm like a mess, that I can't do things right. Or if I like revved the car too much when I was leaving, because like I say, I'm on a hill, and I was so scared of stalling that I would rev it so much just to get up the hill. And I'd be like, oh, my neighbours are going to be able to hear that I'm revving my car, and they're going to think that I can't drive and I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, it just really felt like that my insecurities were just like so open for people to see, basically, and my like lack of skills or whatever with driving was so obvious for people to see. And in the moment, like, I didn't really see it like that, but looking back, that is really what it was. And also, it was coming up to the end of my job. I told you guys in the last video that I was working in an art gallery just as a welcome officer, so the person on like the front desk. So that job was always a temporary job. It was called a fixed term contract. So you were only working for a fixed amount of time. And that got extended a few times because I was covering someone that was poorly. And then he came back to work and we were working together. But the art gallery, unfortunately, had to close. So I think if it hadn't have closed, then I probably would have stayed on there a little bit longer. But I always knew that it was a fixed term contract and that I would be leaving at some point. And my plan was always to go into care work once I'd finished at the art gallery, because I have got a plan to go back to university and do a master's degree. But the master's degree that I want to do, it requires you to have a year's worth of care experience. It was coming up to the end of my job. So this is like now autumn time. I think I was feeling really anxious about that, about the fact that I was going to be leaving this job that I really loved and going into something that was like unknown for me and so different to what I had been doing in the past. So that was all kind of scary. And also I felt the pressure because unfortunately, like, I had told people that this was my plan and that I wanted to look for a job and go into a new job straight away after leaving the art gallery. And people would always ask me about it and like ask me what I wanted to do next and that sort of thing. So I kind of had to tell people what I was going to do. Maybe I should have just lied, I don't know. But I do think that there is something in not telling people your plans and keeping it to yourself sometimes. But yeah, like I say, I didn't. I told everybody what I was doing. So yeah, I just felt a little bit of pressure, really. Not really from anybody else, but for myself, like to get a good job in the care industry and to actually start doing or work towards this goal that I've wanted to do for a few years. And that in itself is quite scary because this is the only like plan that I have. So yeah, I was just having lots of different thoughts and feelings basically. It was coming up to the end of my job. I was also dating at that time. And like I say, because I was so introspective at that point about like me and the way I come across and like feeling a little bit insecure about being perfect basically. And when you're dating somebody, especially someone that you deem to be like, because this man was attractive. He was so handsome and like he dressed so well, he smelled good, he was from a different country, and he was just I had like put him on a pedestal a little bit. I just really fancied him. And I wanted to be my best self. I wanted to put my best foot forward and like show him that I was just like this person that I wanted to be basically. So from I'd say October, I was seeing this guy, and that also made me, I remember like there was one time when I was going to see him and I'd seen my friend like on the way. I'd stopped by at her house before going to see him, and I just remember saying like, oh, I just feel so anxious. And I think it's because I put a lot of pressure on myself. But anyway, I just wanted to touch on quickly the fact that there was more going on in my life as well at that point. So my best friend was pregnant. She told us that she was pregnant in summer. And this is my best friend of like 15 years. We've been friends since school. And yeah, she's my sis. Like, I love her so much. And she's pregnant, the first pregnancy in like my friend group. It felt so, special and amazing. And also my other best friend, she had gone travelling. So she went travelling in September of last year. And she was going to be gone for a whole year. So these like really big things are happening with my friends, and I was so happy for this. But I was kind of like, oh my God, like I'm kind of losing both of my best friends in a way, because my best friend that was pregnant, we weren't able to do the social activities that we used to do. Not saying that we used to drink a lot and that's all that we would do as a friendship, but like we would go out quite a bit. And that changed, and I was actually fine with that. Like, we still did things together, it just wasn't as frequent. So yeah, there was just sort of a lot going on at like towards the end of the year last year. It was my birthday in November, and also my brother's and my mum's birthday are all in November as well. So November's always a really busy time, and then it was Christmas, and that's always a busy time as well. So there was just a lot happening. But meanwhile, internally, I'm kind of like, I'm really trying my best at this point, like to be my best self, to show up for everybody in my life that needed showing up for, and to like present myself in the best way possible for this man. But also I was a little bit confused with him. Like, I will talk about dating a little bit more further on in the video. I'm so sorry that I'm so handsy. My hands are moving like crazy. Yeah, I will talk about dating a little bit more in the video as well later on, but just to kind of tell you like where I was at in that time period at the end of last year, because there were quite a few occasions where I was so critical of myself. Like, I'd be in like a social situation, and there was one time where I was with one of my best friends and her friends and family, and it was a sleepover. It was actually her leaving do to go travelling. And I just remember coming away from that thinking, oh God, like, why did you do this? Like, why did you not say this? Why did you say that? And just really seeing myself from like a bird's eye view and realizing that I couldn't fake being happy, whereas before, even if I was feeling a certain way, I could mask that, and like you wouldn't have known that I was feeling a little bit off. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, I'm such a friggin' waffler. What I'm trying to say is I just felt really off. Like it was like a gradual feeling from when I got my car to like the end of the year. And I just got to a point where I just felt so overwhelmed and so overstimulated all the time. And there were moments where I'd realised that like I have not had a period in the day where I've just been in silence. Like, I'm either listening to podcasts, listening to music, I've got a YouTube video on, or I've got a YouTube video on in the background, or I'm looking at my phone, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, or I'm texting people. And the other thing with dating is you're constantly texting people. So when I first started seeing the guy that I mentioned, I was obviously dating around a little bit. I was dating all of last year. But with dating comes talking to people. There are certain people that don't actually want to go on dates, but just want to be a freaking pen pal. So there was someone that I was talking to when we would just text back and forth all day, every day. Like short little texts. And I actually really liked that. I actually really liked that attention at that time. But I didn't realise how much of an impact it was making on me mentally. Like just being on my phone basically all the time. So that also carried on and continued into the start of this year. So basically from like January into February and March, I felt the lowest that I've ever felt in my life. So I stopped working for the art gallery like a week into January. But there was a period where I said to myself like, oh, it's fine that you're not working, like you can just have a couple of weeks to yourself. I also got really ill at that time, so I just started to like relax a little bit. So I was like, I'll just give myself a week and just chill, just relax, have some you time. There's never really been a period where I'm able to just like relax guilt-free, so I wanted to give myself that, right? But then because I got ill, that week turned into like 2 weeks, and then suddenly it was like nearly the end of January, and I'm like, shit, I've not had a pay this month. And I quickly realised that you need to get yourself in gear, you need to get a new job, because like the funds were not funding and I have no money now. This is really hard like talking about my situation because there's so many things that feed into each other that I haven't even mentioned yet. So since we're talking about money, I'll just say that like for the first time in a long time, I am so broke, and I have been since like the end of the year really. So I bought my car, like I say, in May of last year. Now my car was only, how much was it? £1,700. So less than £2,000. It's a cheap old car, but I had to take out an overdraft and a credit card in order to pay for my car and then pay for the insurance as well. So I did have some savings saved up, but I didn't have enough at that time to pay for everything in total. So I took out an overdraft, which I haven't had since university. I took out £1,000 overdraft and an £800 credit card. That was a limit that I could get because of like my wages. Like I say, I was only working. Sorry, I'm speaking to you guys like you've watched my previous video, and potentially some of you may not have. But I said in my previous video that the job that I was doing at the art gallery was only 4 days a week. It was only 23 hours a week. So that was the lowest wage that I'd had for a while as well. So already like my money was lower than what I was used to, and I wasn't able to save as much as I would have liked to have. I got myself in debt basically to buy my car, and that is the reason why I'm broke today. So anyway, fast forward to January now. Luckily, through my last job at the art gallery, I was able to do some casual work for other museums and galleries in Huddersfield as a casual employee. So I was actually picking up some shifts. So thank God that I was able to do that, otherwise I would really be in a bad situation. And luckily I'm living at home, so thankfully I would still have a roof over my head. But if I wasn't, like, I'd be in a bad place. Or I would have made it work, because obviously that's just what you have to do. But in like January time, there wasn't actually loads of work going. A lot of the museum and galleries were only open for like a few days a week, and there wasn't many shifts available. So there was a point when I just wasn't working at all. So I was in the house, like in January, I was just in the house, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I was just in my bed. Like, when I tell you guys I was depressed, I was so depressed. And at first, like I say, it started off with me just chilling, being so happy to be like at home in my room, pouring about, doing things, just relaxing fully. But then that quickly turned into me getting into this like spiral of like depression and just getting really into myself and feeling really stuck because of all the things that I've mentioned in terms of being on my phone too much, being overstimulated all the time, feeling overwhelmed with just like life in general. And also, like, throughout last year, I really felt that, like, first daughter syndrome. I'm a middle child, but I'm the only daughter. I've got 2 brothers. And for the first time ever, I really felt this sense of responsibility that I hadn't felt before. I'm also the first child out of my siblings that learned to drive. So then suddenly I became, like, relied upon to like go on a holiday and like take all the stuff drivers there, or go and like drive to pick up a family member, or it was just a lot of that. And I just felt so much responsibility and like other things in the house. Like I say, we had our kitchen done and we were redecorating a lot of stuff and doing a lot of stuff. A lot of that fell on me because I'm the only one in the house naturally, and obviously that's going to happen. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm happy to do these things. I really wanted to drive so that I could do these things for my family. But I guess I didn't realise how heavy that would feel on my shoulders. And there's more to that as well. There's more things that, like, I had to do that I'm not mentioning. But I feel like there's a lot that I need to say and everything's just, like, coming out. So, where are we now? End of January, winter blues, definitely, like, the weather was so bad, like it was so windy and rainy and just freezing. The weather was awful. That really didn't help the situation, because even if I did have the means to go out and be able to do things, I couldn't because the weather was awful. My best friend was heavily pregnant. My other friend had gone travelling. I have got other friends that are in the UK, but they don't live close to me. So I just wasn't doing anything. No social life, no money. And I was just in bed all the time watching videos. And I really realised then how bad I had gotten. And I even questioned, do I have ADHD? Am I burnt out? Am I depressed? But it's like, no. You weren't. You're just on social media too much. You don't exercise. You're not seeing any friends. You're not doing anything wholesome. You're just watching YouTube in bed all the time. I don't know. It's hard to say whether I was depressed or not. I feel like I was. Circumstantial depression rather than clinical depression, I guess. Also, the guy that I was seeing that I mentioned that was just like this amazing guy, he had to move and he just sort of disregarded me. And I just felt so confused by that and upset, and felt like I'd put so much effort into me to be this person or to be a better version of myself, because I knew that I needed to do some work on myself for a while, and I was actually doing that. And I was really ready to like level myself up and glow up. And I thought, and I just had I was in a little bit of limerence. I recently learned what limerence was from TikTok. TikTok is educating the masses. So it probably was a bit of that. But yeah, I really liked him, and I thought that we could potentially be something. Even though it was still, I guess, like the early stages of dating. So he had gone away and just wasn't emotional at all with me, just said things as a matter of fact and was like, I'm not gonna have time to see you, sort of thing. And that was that. And then he ended up, okay, I'm saying way too much, but basically we would speak on WhatsApp, and his WhatsApp picture 2 weeks after he told me that he was moving had disappeared. And that sent me into another spiral. Because I was just like, what? Like, you've deleted my number? I was like, wow, I really didn't mean anything to you. Because he told me that he potentially might come back to the UK and stuff. And in my head, I was like, oh, hopefully, like, he'll come back and he'll get in contact with me and we'll start dating again. Like, girl, honestly, so stupid. So the realization hit me that this guy basically just wanted something casual with me. He knew that he would be moving away, and I was just left with these, like, feelings for him. Not that I was in love with him or anything, but, you know, I really liked him and I was hopeful that it might go somewhere. So I just felt kind of used, basically. And I also didn't actually plan to give you guys this much detail, I'm going to be so honest with you. I just wanted to, like, touch on little things to explain the mindset that I was in at that time. But basically the key points are, I felt very disregarded and very used by men, and I felt emotional because I'd left a job that I loved and I was going into something that was unknown to me, so that was a little bit scary. I was having this, like, identity crisis. I just felt, like, very disconnected from myself. Like, my mind, body, soul just felt so disconnected, and I just, like, lost sight of who I was. It was just a really, like, dark period. It was winter, and then, like, metaphorically speaking, it was dark. The weather was dark and I was dark. And I also realised that I did have a dysregulated nervous system. Again, thanks to social media, Instagram. I realised that, like, I was stuck in, like, a freeze response. Now, without going into too much detail, a lot of stuff happened in my childhood, and I realised that I still had work to do around that, and I realised that I was probably stuck in this freeze response and that my nervous system was dysregulated. I've had a lot of moments in my life where I've realised things about myself but then never really taken action on it, or I've realised what I need to do but then I don't actually do it, but I'll think about it. I'm a very heady person, and when I say, like, my mind, body, soul is disconnected, I've always been very in my head and not really in my body. And in recent years, I felt really disconnected from my soul. I've not done any, like, creative stuff. I'm a creative person, but I wasn't doing any art. I wasn't reading any books. All I was doing, literally, for my entertainment and for, like, my relaxation was watching YouTube and being on my phone, basically. Seeing my friends, yeah, sure, but, like, when I was at home, that was what I'd be doing. So I think, like, for the past couple of years, I've just been quite numb. And because I had the time to really, like, sit with myself and think about myself in, like, a bird's eye view almost, and, like, really journal. I've journaled a lot. And I've also really, like, let myself feel emotions rather than just thinking about them maybe, but, like, pushing them to the side almost. I really let myself be in my feels. And although it felt, like, crazy in the moment, I actually feel so much better for doing that. And it's really funny because in moments of feeling really down, and I felt like this maybe when I was, like, 17, 18, I remember at that point I really reflected on, like, my spirituality as well. Now, my mum grew up Catholic. She's from, like, an Irish background, and my dad's side, they're Gambian and they're Muslims. So I am, like, born from two very different religions and cultures, and I don't class myself as religious, as in I don't follow a religion, but I do feel like I am spiritual in my own way. But recently, and like I say, like, maybe 10 years ago, I had been feeling like maybe I'm missing out because I'm not religious and because I don't follow a specific religion. So I've really been, like, reflecting on that. Yeah, that was really interesting because I don't want to speak about, like, my beliefs too much, but I've always been quite strong on the fact that I'm not religious. So the fact that I was now like, do I need God? Like, do I need God in my life? Should I be practicing a religion? Like, maybe I wouldn't be feeling this way if I was. I'm feeling like maybe I'm lost because I don't follow a religion. So I was even having, like, heavy thoughts about that as well, and I've had to, like, do some work around that, which has been interesting. But yeah, like I say, just I was questioning everything about myself and like really dissecting myself in a way that I haven't before. Okay, it's about a month later. That clip ended so abruptly because the curtains that you see behind me, they just fell down. That's one of the jobs that's been on my list for a long time, is to actually put wall plugs in before I nail in the attachment. But I never did it, so it fell down. And then my SD card was full, so I just called it a day and stopped recording. But I actually didn't know if I was going to use those video clips because I felt like I wasn't coherent and I felt like I missed out a lot of points. Now, I've watched the video back and I've edited it and I feel like it is okay to post. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit more guarded and like shy about posting, and I really want to make sure that the videos that I'm putting out are worth uploading and that they will actually make sense to people and that you guys, if you're watching, will get something from it. And I'm going to try and be as concise as I can be in this last little clip. I just want to sort of like conclude the video and maybe just touch on some of the points that I missed out on when I first recorded this. And also, if you are interested, I do want to make another video after this talking about how I feel now, because my mental state and my mentality, my perception of things is so different to what it was at the start of the year. And it's just crazy how big of a shift I've had and how much of a change I've felt. And that's the reason why I said that this was quite a pivotal point in my life, is because I do feel like not a different person, but I just feel so much better in so many different ways and in ways that I didn't even think that I could. So I do want to talk about that and elaborate on that a little bit more in another video if you would like that, and let me know if you would be interested, because it would be good to know if you are. Watching it back, I did almost feel like, well, it is first world problems, isn't it? Everything that I'm talking about in this video is just me growing up and having more responsibility in life and not being able to deal with it, basically. There was a good few years before this where I just was not living in alignment with myself. Like I mentioned, that my mind, body, soul just felt really disconnected, and it had done for a good few years. I just wasn't living in a way that I knew I should be. And when I mentioned about being overstimulated and overwhelmed all the time, that came from me just distracting myself constantly. So like I say, I was watching YouTube a lot, and I was watching a lot of like self-help content on YouTube and like glow up content on YouTube, thinking that that would help me. And I was getting like a dopamine hit from watching those and then thinking about all the ways that I could implement what that person was saying, but then I never really would, or I would try to and then I would fail. I felt numb for a very long time, and I was distracting myself heavily with like everything and then not actually truly doing any work on myself. I mentioned that I had 3 months, basically January, February and March, where I really had the time to like journal, to cry it out, to feel my feels. And the reason that I had that time is because I did actually get a job at the end of January, but I didn't actually start the job until May. Oh shit, so I had like 5 months of not working full time. I was still working here and there, like I said, casually, but I wasn't working full time until May. So it took a long time for me to start that new job, just due to like references and stuff like that. So yeah, when I mentioned that I was like trying to work on myself earlier while I was dating and like trying to glow up, I was trying to glow up in like every single aspect of my life, and I was trying to do all the habits that I wanted to implement all at once. I was trying to glow up in every way all at once. I was trying to be there for all my family and friends, trying to like look for new jobs. I really wanted to gain weight, and I got a gym membership and I was trying to go to the gym, and I was trying to be a better driver and do all these house DIYs. I had a to-do list, which is like as long as my arm. I had a list of things that I needed to buy, but I had no money, and I couldn't really do a lot of the stuff on my to-do list because it required me to spend money. So I was just trying to do entirely too much, and nothing really was getting done. I did burn myself out. I just felt like I was drowning with like everything that was going on. And again, yes, this is just such like a privileged thing to be able to say, and I do understand that, and I almost feel silly for posting this video, for even talking about it, but I do feel like it is important to talk about, because like me, for a good few years I was there watching this self-help content, like listening to them talk about things, but it wasn't until I went through this like bit of a breakdown of my own and then came out the other side of it that I actually realised how much I was distracting myself from myself. And it wasn't until I recognised that and I did that work that I was actually able to then just take action in my life and do things to improve myself and be the person that I always felt like I wanted to be. So yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is, even if you are watching this video right now and you're hearing me talk and you're hearing my story, you still may not be able to make certain changes in your life until you reach a certain point where you just cannot put up with your bullshit any longer. And that's just the point that I hit. I just really could not put up with myself anymore. I reached my breaking point. I had a little breakdown and I was able to like get through to the other side. And I don't think I realised quite how I was limiting myself, and I had like a blockage on myself. And yeah, like I said at the beginning of this video, it does feel a little bit trivial, but also at the same time, our mental health is so important. It's all that we have. And I've debated whether I should just stop uploading these videos. It's something that I clearly want to do, and YouTube is actually the only hobby that I've been able to do successfully in the past few years. Everything else I want to do, like painting, reading, knitting or doing something with fabrics, I just don't do because I don't have the time. And I just feel like for some reason this is what I find easiest to do, so I'm just going to do it. Like, life is really too short for me to be questioning whether I should be uploading these videos or not. You know, if it does help one person out there, then no. But truly though, if my videos do help a handful of people, then I'm really happy. And like I say, why do I feel like I'm gonna cry? I'm so sorry. I didn't think that I was going to get emotional with this. I just think it is worth having conversations and having voices on the internet that talk about real life things. And this is my real life, and it's what I've been going through recently. And I do feel like it's important to share so that we don't feel alone. So yeah, I really struggled at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, but I really needed to go through it, and I'm really grateful that I did and that I had the time to do so. And that in itself is a privilege, that I was able to just sit and not work full time and just really get into myself and understand myself on a deeper level, so that I could get to the other side and like get over myself. I would like to do a video talking about that transition and what I actually did and what I've changed, and how I feel now, basically. So yeah, let me know if you'd be interested in that. And I hope you guys are truly all doing okay. And yeah, let's talk in the comments if you'd like to. Yeah, okay, bye. Have a good day.